Welcome back to the Black Ice. All right, so here we go. This video is the explanation video because I'm going to post a build that I think is the best build on YouTube, and then it's going to say, well, go find this video. It's the explanation video. But I wanted to do this video and give it to the Discord first so they can go through and make their own builds, because I don't necessarily think you should follow my build. I do think you might want to follow my builds with minor adjustments on this, though, because what I'm about to show you is different, right? So years ago, about 3 years ago, I made this video. This build has 0.5 hole. The glove low, glove high, stick high, none of it matters. Like, none of that category matters. And I've been playing with it for about 2 weeks. And I used it in LG this past week in both AHL and NHL games. And I'm telling you, the reactions were, everything was as I thought it would be from playing Sixers game. It seems this video still holds true. I just didn't at the time understand what the problem was, or where to go with it, or why to take with it, because I believed it, but something was off. All right. So for instance, right, just to go here, and I'm like, all right, negatives. The goalie just seems to save and be and play better. Animations are better when things are negative, right? But it was like certain aspects I was just messing up on. But for the sake of this, let's take this off. Right? Let's put this stuff high. Let's put that stuff as high as you can go here, just to show you what I need to show you here. Okay? So, speed and agility are high. That's going to come into play later, right? So, I'm like, yo, does this really affect it? And I went through like nights and nights of this. And I put them down. And then I would go in to test it against the computer, and he would be fine. He would save everything. And I'm like, yo, those numbers don't matter. But then I'd say 3-4 weeks ago, EA released an update, and they're trying to explain how light work works. They're trying to explain that they increase light work to make it work. And they try to explain the anatomy of a save, right? And I'm like, okay. So then I went back to previous updates and when they explained things about goalies, and I started putting 2 and 3 together, and I'm like, yo, wait a minute. So you're telling me that if light work, for instance, you made better, and to make it more effective, light work starts at, you have to be at 88 or 88 first, glove high and stick high. So that means you're telling me on a butterfly, I can't automatically get light work. So that means I have to add one for it to get light work. But you can't tell me that adding one makes the goalie actually better. Like, that wouldn't make sense for that to be better, right? So it doesn't make sense, but it's what you need to get light work. So in my head, I've always said, right? In my head, I've always said the gold increases the whatever you're doing or using it for, it increases that ability by 2. And the silver increases that ability by 1. So if that's the case, right, with a stand-up goalie, they consider him excellent at stopping high shots. So if he's excellent at stopping high shots, his glove high is 92. So that means 92 is excellent, right? And when they updated light work and made it a gold attribute, and then I was able to put it on the butterfly, and I'm like, okay, I'm not changing much about the butterfly, but I'm putting light work as my goal, and he's just saving all high things now. That means if I'm correct about light work being the gold being advancing it to, that means that you're going from 87 to, it increases the ability twice. So that means you're going from 87 to 88. That's your first increase. After you get to 88, which is where it needs to be to get light work. It needs to be at 88 just to get light work, right? So if it increases it 2 from where you need to get it, that means 88 is where you have to put it on to get light work. So now at gold, it increases it 2 points. So for me, 2 points is always mean 2 levels. 2 levels is always mean 4 points. So from 88, if it increases it 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, it now takes it to excellent. It now takes it to what the stand-up is at 92. So on its own, that number, that light work takes you to excellent just as having it in the gold. You don't have to actually have it this number here there in order to get it, because you can put it in gold. But the game sees it as you have light work or you have gold. That means it's going to increase from where it's needed, where you can put it on at 88. From that point, the game knows I increased this 4 points. So regardless to what number this is at, I'm increasing it 4 points from what I know, 88, from that point. Not from where you have it set here, because it doesn't matter, because I can get light work in gold. I'm increasing it from that point, from 88, going forward. So I'm like, wait a minute. That means these numbers really don't matter, right? So if these numbers really don't matter, and I went through all of it, and I'm like, okay, these numbers really don't matter. Like I said 3 years ago, then they really don't matter. So I'm like, all right, I went through full testing of these things all over the place, all over the time. I did I don't know, man. I did night and day of this stuff. And I'm going through and I'm like, you know what? Let's keep this as is. And I'm going to go. And I went in and I practiced with it. And it was phenomenal. I'm like, I'm going to go in there now just to show you. It was phenomenal. But when I started playing against players, much like the last 3 years ago, there was something missing. I would make great saves and then I would let in idiotic things. But like at 84, you would think stuff would just go, or -5s, you would think against the computer here, you would think things would go in all the time. But no, I am good. He's saving everything. He's covering it himself. He's doing all of this by himself. And I'm like, it really doesn't matter. So those attributes are the ones that matter. Look, covers it by himself on the corner. This build is an ordinary average build. And you saw me not increase anything, but you're seeing the aspects that you want from a stand-up goalie. Because I've always said the animations, the realizations for the computer somehow kicks in when you lower your stuff, right? It doesn't affect it. It just makes it more smooth, right? But what I started to notice was I would give up weird goals. And I'm like, yeah, I was not slightly in position, right? But I didn't notice what I'm about to show you. Now, in low camera, look at my 1 pushes, all of that. Fantastic. My 1 pushes, I'm in position. It's fantastic. I'm there. I can size up the goalie and all that. He covers it himself. I don't have to do anything. But this is the aspect I didn't realize, right? When I was playing and then I changed, I started getting killed because I was trying it with higher cameras. And in the higher cameras, let's go and let's put this to overhead. In the higher cameras, you realize how slow your guy, look, he is not moving. You realize how slow he is because it doesn't translate the same. The guy is just so slow. So every movement, I have to basically be on the controller. So then I was creating weird angle movements. I was moving during shots. I was doing all that because I was trying to set up my guy in the right spot. It's the movement. Look at the movement. It's completely different in a higher camera than it is when I go to a lower camera. So when I go to a lower camera, I'm like, he looks really fluid and movement is fantastic and all of that. I see no problems. Like here, I see no problems. Doesn't look like the same goalie. Covers himself, does all of that. I'm like, yo, you telling me. So at this point, I got nervous and excited at the same time, right? Nervous and excited at the same time. I'm like, yo, I think all those numbers, and I'm going to go back in just to point out something to you. right? You saw how bad he moved in higher cameras, which really is a representation of how he moves in lower cameras. It just looks different, and you'll get scored on because even though you're in lower cameras, because you think you're moving that way, but you're not. But on this build, I have decent speed and agility, so he shouldn't be moving as bad as he was. And that's when I was like, no way, man. No way. EA screwed this game up. The number's low, and I'm just going to put them back up. The numbers here now I'm going to go back in. The numbers in these categories, the first two categories, is what dictates how you move. Those numbers are when we used to always ask, is it agility? Is it speed? Is it what makes you move better in the crease? What makes you move better in the crease? Is it height? Is it weight? It is the first two categories of numbers that make you move better. Look at the difference in the movement. Look at the difference in the movement. And all I did was increase those two numbers, those first category numbers. I didn't touch the other ones. So you get to see now what it looks like. So the movement is dictated by your first two category numbers. And you can change and increase your numbers or decrease your numbers by decreasing or increasing those numbers. I say decreasing or increasing because some of these builds, stand-up, butterfly, hybrid, they react different to your minus and your addition based on how the build was built, right? Originally. So for me, the stand-up works better when I increase the high stuff and decrease the low stuff. His movement becomes much more fluid, right? So I'm about to show you the movement difference from this build versus what I just showed you at negative, right? See the difference in the movement? So all those years we've been saying, hey, what's the difference in movement from height, weight, speed, all of that? All of it was determined by the first two categories. Don't ask me why, but look, my guy moving much better than when I was trying to dictate the slow movement. Yeah, you get better animations with lower numbers, but your movement is slowed down from the two categories. Your movement is completely slowed down. Go test it. I'm telling you, you'll see the difference. So, going back, now I can get into what this video is actually about, but I had to explain that first. All right. So, going back into what this video is going to help you do with your builds now, if this would load properly, it's going to help you dictate your movement. You've heard me say movement is the most important aspect for me, and I couldn't use certain builds because I liked butterfly movement better. But I couldn't dictate the other ones and how they moved. I tried height, weight, I tried speed, agility, all of that. But when I found out that these dictated how your guy moves, then I started playing with them. Then I started to see which combination of these made me move the best or made me get to a certain avenue better. Because every time I would increase it by 2, I would move slightly different. Every time I would decrease it a little bit, one side versus the other side, I would move a little bit different. Now, here's the important part. Having it extremely low, you get better save animations, and you get rid of the silly blocker save animation that you got all the time. You know the one I'm talking about. But having it lower makes your guy slower, which then makes it harder for you to move as a human being, which makes then playing the game harder to play. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I didn't notice from previous, was that these numbers, better animation, so you get better saves, but you have worse movement. with that being said, let's discard that and let's show you this butterfly build. This is my current butterfly build. It's not my favorite build. The stand-up is my favorite build right now because of certain aspects of the stand-up build. So with this, the butterfly, always starts at 92 because that's what it's good at, right? So it starts at 92. I have extra points that I'm not using. Because this, knowing that the numbers don't dictate my saves, but they help with animation, I was just going through it to make sure I get the best movement. And the reason why this stand-up is my favorite is the stand-up, I can keep the glove high category. I can keep that category higher on the stand-up and use the glove low category to make that lower, to manipulate my speed. But by making that lower, then I can have better animations and a better overall save while being moved, because it mattered for the low stuff for the stand-up. And why that matters is, if you look at, let's look at these numbers here. So every one of these tells you what it's going to help you in. It's going to help you, and the no timer is going to help you with the speed and the agility. And once I figured that out, I was like, okay, if I could dictate my movement by the first category, speed and agility, I never thought I needed. I never used it anyway. But okay, I don't need you to give me extra speed and agility. That's why I never used no timer. So it's like, yeah, if you're a guy that needs that agility for quick twitch when you play, you're going to want to increase that because you're going to get that agility, right? But the what I needed it for is like extra padding, right? And this is why you saw me put the glove high at 89, because I wanted the extra padding. And all this came about because EA started trying to improve the goalie. And I wanted this because it helped me with glove high and vision. Yeah, I know it says those have to be a certain category to get it, but remember I said that's where you need to start from to get it, and then it increases you one level past that. Now with a butterfly, I need the vision and I need the glove high, because that's where the overall namesake of the build sucks. It sucks in the higher stuff. So I need that for them, and I'm trying to battle tips, and I'm trying to battle all of that. So with the silver category, I needed this, and then I needed the tip jar, because it then also helped me with vision and also helped me with stick low. So I'm like, wait, so if tip jar needs my stick low to be better in order for tips, for you to react and do better with tips, that means in order to save like a gold, whatever the stuff is called, I can't think right now, gold tip, whatever the stuff is called, that means in order to stop tips, my low category has to be pretty high, right? But on a butterfly, it's already pretty high. So that means I don't care what the numbers say, but I want to help it by giving it categories or giving it attributes that makes it better at that. So this build was built with the idea of, I want it to be good movement, take away tips, something I can't do. I can already do 1Ts and such. So I just need it to do the things that I can't do. So with that in mind, I'm like, all right, so I want the two categories that gives me better vision and gives me glove high, which is what this is lacking. Now, once I add that there and tip jar here, so I'm getting one help glove high already from extra padding, and then I'm getting 2 extra help from light work with the 2 glove high zones ability that's adding me from it being in gold. So then I'm like, okay, cool. So once I figured out all of this, that this category is just used for movement for some reason. This you can manipulate in any way you want for how you want your build to move. Now realize the lower it is, the better save animations you are, and actually the better the goalie is at saving it. And I said that in 2020, but I didn't have any proof of it. I just knew it worked, but I just didn't know why it wasn't working at times. And now I realize it's because it slowed my guy down so much that I couldn't use it all the way. I had to find a way to balance it, right? And then once you get past these categories actually work like they're supposed to. But then because of the way that EA broke down the way what goes into a save animation and what goes into saves, so attributes goes into save, all right? So that's what you already put there. Whether he's tired, whether he has a screen. So I'm like, wait, so if all of those things go into it, then I know what categories I have to go after. But it didn't come together until I started realizing that these two categories dictated your movement. And by not having to try to fill these up with other things, I can make any build I want. Like I can literally make any build I want once I could tie into my movement. I know it doesn't make any sense, but I promise you, I've been using this thing with this concept for 2 weeks. I haven't lost a game. I had a game the other, I had like 3 straight occasions where I had 3 straight shutouts in a row. And I'm not talking about low shots. I'm talking 14 plus shots of just shutouts. Now, granted, if you suck, if you don't make the right move, if you don't follow the puck right, you're still going to get scored on. This isn't a, oh, this saves you. No, this is I can build a dominant computer build. I still have to put the work in as a human. But these 2 categories are not what they are. They're a lying category. EA has been lying to us for the longest, and now I have proof of it. Back then, everybody was saying, nope, that doesn't make sense. But some people came forward and was like, nah, -5 really doesn't seem to change you saving the puck. But again, we didn't know that it meant it slowed you down. So that's why you would give up some gaudy goals initially. So that was a long enough explanation, man. But I had to, because then I'm going to put out a build that people are going to question. And if you don't know these things, then you're going to go through it anyway. I'm going to end the video by saying this. I'm right and you're wrong. I'm right and EA is wrong, not you, because you're going to believe EA. But when you change these categories and see how much moving it 2 points and moving it high versus moving it low changes the way that your guy moves, and when we thought it was height, weight, and speed and agility, you're going to also realize that EA doesn't know what they're doing. And I've been right this entire time. Yeah, I'm tooting my own horn. You know how much work I put into this? I appreciate you guys. This is really going to change how most of you build and play goalie. I guarantee it. Peace out, boys.